Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today for a discussion on designing for a world without waste. Joining us are three leading companies that are collaborating in the denim industry, and each share a vision to create a more sustainable, holistic, and mindful future for denim. We're hosted today by Orta, a leading denim manufacturer who's based in Turkey. And since about 2010, they launched their own sustainability platform called Orta Blue, where they've been working on what they call a handprint mission, and is to innovate denim manufacturing to give back more than we can take from the planet. And it is to create change for the better. So joining us is Dr. Sedef Ungu Aki, who is the Director of Product Development, R&D, Sales and Marketing, Sustainability, Planning, and Operations at Orta. And this is, at Orta, she really does continue to advocate for sustainable innovation at the intersection of people, planet, and purpose. And also joining her, which we'll hear from later, is Isabel Siracusa. She's the Director of Product Design and Development for the U.S. market, which is based in Los Angeles. So thank you both, and we'll get more of an introduction later from everyone. We're also excited to introduce you guys to a newcell. It's a multi-award-winning circular fashion company that is producing products from recycled textiles. Renewcell was founded by innovators actually out of Stockholm's Royal Institute of Technology just in 2012. And based in Sweden, they've made a lot of inroads with their groundbreaking process, which we'll hear more from Jenny Friedrichsdotter later on. Jenny is the circular business manager who has focused her passion for fashion sustainability and mindful consumption in her work at Renewcell, and she continues to strive to close the loop in the fashion industry. So thank you, Jenny. Also with us, very excited to have Paul Dillinger and Una Murphy. They're both from the iconic Levi's denim brand, part of the Levi Strauss & Company. Levi Strauss, based in California, was founded in 1853. Talk about resilience, right, in today's business world. And Levi's, to most of us, we have our own Levi's story, but in general, you can say Levi's has been the jeans and the clothing of consciousness, social change, imagination, and the pioneering spirit for generations and generations. And believe me, they continue to innovate for denim's future. So I'm excited to let them share what they're doing in collaboration with Orta and Renewcell. And joining Paul actually is Una Murphy. She's the Senior Innovation Designer at Levi's, where for 18 years, she's focused on fabric design, fit, and wash through the lens of sustainability, working with emerging materials and new platforms and innovation and apparel creation methods. Paul, look him up. He has been and continues to be one of the biggest advocates, if you will, of holistic, sustainable design processes. He's been at Levi's for years. Paul and his team, which Una actually worked on with him, created the industry-leading Well Thread collection. And it probably is one of the groundbreaking sustainable processes that is going to be built into design, and we're going to see more from the start of that collection. Paul and his team continue to push the boundaries of what's possible in holistic design, and we're excited to have Paul, for you and Una and everyone else to join us today. So my name is Jeanine Lopiano. I'm the co-founder of Sputnik Futures and Alice in Futureland, and we've been following the intersection of art, technology, science, and culture for about 26 years now. And we've always found, I'm doing this quick introduction, but I think I'd love each of you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. And the one thing I'd love for you to share is, if you will, that aha moment. You know what I mean? That aha moment when the light bulb went off, or just in your gut, you knew that what you would do, what you wanted to do with your career, or what put you on this path to really create sustainable change in your industry. If you don't mind, Paul, I'd love to start with you.
Okay, gosh. Well, thanks, first of all, for the introduction and for the opportunity to have this dialogue. I think I started first working with Sputnik at Federated Merchandising probably about 26 years ago, so it's great to keep these conversations going long term. Aha moment, I think, was probably after I'd spent a period of time working in what was called the designer denim space, and then had left that to go into a vertically integrated specialty store, a design space, working for a startup for American Eagle. and after about 5 years came back to the designer denim space. And it was really funny to see that these two different designer denim brands, they were both working on the exact same cone fabric, cone 1662P, out of Parras, Mexico. They were both cutting the same fits, so the same fits and the same fabrics that I'd been working on 5 years prior, simply at a different brand, making it the same facility, at the same price point, selling to the same buyers as before. However, in the 5 years after I left, the margins had gotten tighter and the chargebacks tighter, and the only place that value was being extracted seemed to be at the labor space. And I became really disillusioned with this notion that progress for the industry was simply going to be tighter, sharper, more pressure on vendor and extracting greater value, and never asking for investment from either the retailer or the consumer. And I kind of like dropped out of the industry for a while. I went into academia. My aha moment was realizing how difficult it was to affect change 6 students at a time. And that's about the time when Levi's, Strauss and Company gave me a call and said, hey, why don't you move out to San Francisco and do something big and do something real? And that aha moment that the greater change was going to be achieved by trying to work within the system than trying to educate against the system, and that real opportunity for change is going to happen at scale at a company like Levi's. And ever since that sort of aha switch about 10 years ago, I've been with dogged determination trying to affect change within the industry.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Jenny, can I ask you to share a little bit more about yourself and your aha moment?
Of course. Thank you so much for inviting us to this great conversation. I've been in the fashion industry since 1996. And I started my career working in the buying office of H&M. And later on, I moved on to working in production. And my real aha moment was when I moved to Bangladesh I think it was in 2004. And saw these huge factories with so much garments just going in. And at this point, many factories were in quite bad condition, I have to say. So I saw the effect of the pollution in the society and how it affected like the farmland surrounding the plots. So that was the time when I decided that I want to work towards changing the fashion industry, but it took a long time to reach the right place. But here at Renewcell, I think I can do a change at least.
That's great. What a wonderful story. And I think you are, and you're going to share more on that later with us, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Isabel, do you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself and your aha moment?
Sure. I kind of grew up in this industry. My grandma had a small cut and sew factory in Burbank, California, and I would go there all the time. And one time this woman came in, a woman came in with a pair of jeans, and she wanted just the sides to be taken in a little bit on the waist. And my grandmother thought it was doing her a favor to patch up all of her holes. And they was like totally destructed. And she did that. And this woman came back and she was like in tears about like what my grandma had done to her jeans. And I feel like after that, I obviously was like in love with the denim industry. And I think the same as Jenny, my aha moments were when I started traveling abroad and seeing all the factories in China, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. And I'm just happy to be in a place where at Orta we're monitoring those aspects that we can to create change in this type of environment for sure.
Great. And Una, you're back. How are you? Good. I know you've also been at Levi's for a long time. So do you mind telling, a little bit more about you and your aha moment in your career?
Of course. I've had a variety of roles at Levi's. I've worked on the core design team. I've worked in raw material development. I've worked on LVC. So I've done a number of things from yarn up development to shade development. Lots of different roles on the design team, global concept. I think for me, an aha moment in my recent career has been when I started working with Paul on sustainability. And at the time when we started doing it was in 2005. And he had this quite radical idea that sustainability and durability were co-equal with style and a beautiful wash and a beautiful fabric. And it's been, we started working off our life cycle assessment, which is science-based, and it showed us the true impact of our product. So when you start to understand the impact of the things you've created, like our water impact is 3,781 liters of water, and you realize that you've had a hand in creating quite a lot of units, and so your environmental impact associated with those units is it's quite a humbling experience, but it's also a really empowering experience because I now understand it, and it's really a great motivator to try to seek ways to do things better and to make change.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And Sedef, our host for today, do you mind sharing a little bit more on yourself and your aha moment?
Yes, of course. First of all, I really would like to thank all of you to be with us here today. I'm really excited. It's really wonderful to see us here discussing what we have accomplished, which is really a good, really nice project. And it's an innovative step in the sustainability. That's how we see it all together. There isn't one aha moment that I would like to share, but a series of choices really brought me up to now, and I'm grateful where I am because I love what I do. Like the university selection here, it is if you're good at like in math and science, you can either be a doctor or an engineer. And during those times in the beginning of 1990s, textile sector was really hot in Turkey, the star of the sectors among the rest. So I selected textile engineering. Then I said, let's move on to the social science, and I did an MBA, and I really would like to combine both in my PhD in NC State. And I did textile technology and management, and it was at the beginning of 2000. And during those times, people, like there were quite few textile companies in North Carolina, South Carolina, and nearly all of them really wanted to invest in China, as if China is the only location, is the right choice for all the companies. Then I realized that shouldn't be that way. The investment decisions, you definitely need to plan on what you really want to do based on your strategy, product strategy, and which part would you like to invest, etc. And labor cost is not the only factor that you should decide, right? That was the first moment that I realized that people are really thinking about like in a narrow vision most of the time. And then I did my PhD about investment decisions, and then one publisher really contacted me to really create a book out of it. And I now have a book about customized international investment decisions and available in Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And then at the beginning of 2000s, like when I returned back to Turkey, I built up an R&D center in my previous company, and it's how I entered the denim sector. And during those times, again, I always liked the strategy and innovation part. We really made a big research about what to research, what will be the new technologies for the upcoming future, etc. And then people were thinking about sustainability, like as a buzzword, that it will pass. Like, oh, okay, so sustainability has started to, people have started to talk about it, but will it stay or will it pass? So then I really started to investigate and research on sustainability, and then I realized that how important sustainability is and how important to really reduce our environmental and social impact as a textile industry as we move forward. So right now, personally and professionally, I'm really strongly after sustainability practices. And I really believe that it's my responsibility to convey what I have learned so far, but also to continue to learn deeper and create a vision about new technologies to decrease our impact on the earth and take action in every way that we can.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I love all of your shared visions and aha moments. And pretty much where your passion, it sounds like, and your work, it intersects. It's like one, and that's a gift, especially, you know, we live in such a volatile world today. I don't have to tell you the challenges that we are facing personally, individually, and our companies, with these major stresses of health, the pandemic, changing a lot of processes, patterns, and habits, everything that's going on with social and ethnic inequality. But I think one of the biggest ones that we're all talking about and addressing today is this growing eco-anxiety. You know, that there's a real, you know, it doesn't get buzzed, you know, to the top of the press because the pandemic is everything these days. But there really is a growing around the world, a fear and anxiety, a lot of stress over climate change. We've seen a lot of storms and everything is just getting more volatile and more active. And so that hand in hand goes with sustainability. I think Gen Z, we all talk about it. In particular, they really are demanding, and they're following us with and hold us accountable with traceability, transparency. And they're really asking, you know, let's move beyond this climate friendly discussion, like Steph was speaking about sustainability in quotes, and become more climate action. And that includes, you know, disrupting the old ways of manufacturing, producing, selling, and even purchasing denim. And you know what? That includes all of us. It includes us as an industry as well as individuals. I think newcell is very much, you know, a very part of this total change in this conversation. So I'd like us to start talking a little bit more about, you know, the connection of consumers and sustainability. You know, at Levi's, we all know, has been part of this cultural narrative for change, especially around, you know, sustainability. And so, Paula, I'd love for you to kick us off and really, you know, based on the growing consumer demands, you know, and you've got your pulse on the cultural mindset, if you will, what's going on. What do you think is your biggest challenge today?
I think there are, if I can answer, there are probably two co-equally challenging challenges around, you know, in light of growing consumer demand. I think one of the important challenges is to become disciplined about ignoring consumer demand for sustainability. The fact that it can manifest as a trend suggests, and that we would need to confront and address and accommodate, suggests that were it not a trend, it isn't something we would have to prioritize. Thinking back on some of the previous comments, the idea of maybe this is a trend, maybe it will go away. I imagine that in 1755, someone was thinking, maybe this industrial revolution will go away, right? Maybe industrial revolution is just like a fad. You know, similarly, maybe this sustainability revolution will go away. No, I don't think it will. And if we treat it like a trend, and acknowledge that burgeoning appetite for sustainable product needs to be met with more sustainable product, we need to follow the science, not consumer sentiment. Understanding consumers have to come along. There might be an ebb and flow or moments of intensity or moments of decreased appetite. But regardless, the disciplined work that has to bring a project like the Renewcell Circulose to market, multi-year, multi-season, and R&D partnerships and investments that have to operate independent of trend cycle or consumer sentiment, those require discipline and focus that is not necessarily an endemic behavior set within the apparel industry. And I'd say another really important challenge confronting us is the obvious need for disruption, and in both the supply chain, consumption models, but then the need to fine line be disrupting versus upsetting. We need it's similar, like, I think that this project that we've been working on to deliver a jean that's revolutionary and imperceptibly different, right? That it is fundamentally the same Levi product you know and love, but with this incredible backstory about why it's different and better. I think that's the challenge right there, to become revolutionaries, but on the down low, right? We have to be kind of careful about how we move these new ideas through a supply chain that, in order for it to work to our advantage, it needs to be allowed to work. And so that challenge of easing new ideas and easing revolutions through and without degrading mill efficiency, or loom efficiency, and without, like all the technical things. I think those two challenges, staying focused on science and being the mindfully disruptive or carefully disruptive, I think are the big ones that jump out to me.
That's great. Building off of that, because that's great. I love the idea of mindful of science and mindful of being disruptive at the same time. It's both. It's two in one. Una, can you share a little bit more on your vision of the challenges, and also what you think of the of the denim industry in the next 5 years? Because we have a lot of work to do.
We do have a lot of work to do. I do think there's a growing consumer demand for sustainability, but it would be great if we had a clear indication of what a garment's impact is, and that was really easy for the consumer to understand, because unless we do that, it's really hard for them to be motivated. They know they want sustainable product, but they're not really sure how to activate their purchasing power to make more sustainable style choices. So it would be incredible to have some sort of labeling that's, global, that's universal, that's really easy to understand, so people can actually activate their purchasing power to make real sustainable change by, buying sustainably made product. I do think that consumer values are evolving, and I think it's a really important time for our industry to step up and provide innovative and meaningful change. I don't think what we're going to make is radically going to change too much. I still think we're going to be making essential, really comfortable clothes that people want, but I think it's incredibly important that we figure out how to do it in a less resource intensive way.
Yeah. That's great. And in talking about, science and mindful change, Sedef, I'd love to know if you can share with us what, you're always looking and loving to research, which key technologies do you think will reshape the denim industry, and in some ways possibly transform people's quality of life and change their consumption patterns?
Maybe I really would like to mention 2 topics here, but the first one is not a key technology, but a way of doing business, or the way of operating, let me put it that way, which is transparency. And the second one is circularity, or solutions to waste, and that's how we all came together in this project. Why I'm really insisting on transparency, we are now seeing a lot of blockchain technologies already in place, that you can really see where the cotton comes from in the product line, or where it is produced. And apart from being a transparent company as Orta, we wanted to make something different. As Paul said, science is really important. And to speak with data, real, comparable, quantifiable data, it's really important, because I always say you can't manage what you can't measure. So that's why we really would like to, we invested in an environmental impact assessment tool and methodology called life cycle assessment. And with this life cycle assessment, right now, for more than 2 years, we are actually calculating the impact of each and every fabric we are producing, considering 5 environmental impact categories. And we are communicating this data with our customers via simple QR codes on the product hand tags, which is really a step, as a next step in transparency, because now you're talking about the real data to compare your choices of raw material or your choices of way of production. So this is really important for us. And not only that, LCA also gives you an opportunity to really design for sustainability without even producing the fabric itself. So you can put the variables in the system without producing it. And you can select the raw material, different raw materials, let's say the newcell, change the percentage, and see how it impacts the environment. And as as a mimic, let me put it that way, we developed an application that you can download to your iPhones or like Androids, Orta Blue app, that you can select different raw materials, way of production, different finishes on the fabric, and to see the comparison to a standard denim that we have defined in the system, which is really amazing to see the actions or like the decisions that we are taking in today's world and their impact on the environment. And the last part for LCA that we think really important is that you can see the hotspots in your production. And to reduce the footprint, how you can invest in new technologies in that sense inside the manufacturing. We've been operating with this traditional model for so many years. And disruption, as Paul said, is really important in some parts. We can't always be that, it's not that easy to disrupt the ways to produce, but new technologies, we are always considering to change how we are doing things to really reduce the hotspots, the impact of the hotspots in the system. And at Orta, our goal is really create immortal products, long-lasting, good quality fabrics, combining circular production with durable construction while efficiently using our resources. And in line with this vision, we are planning to invest on the technologies that supports this goal in the upcoming years. And the pandemic hasn't changed anything in our plans. Every crisis incorporates really opportunities in itself. Now it's not the time to stop and do nothing. It's time to slow down the consumption, by the way. But it's also time to focus on new ways of doing our very traditional manufacturing processes, and flexible production in that sense is really important for us. And we are now thinking about next 5 years and what we should be doing. As of now, we were saying that our philosophy at Orta is to create a robust denim ecosystem where art meets technology, meets sustainability. But we've done a recent collaboration with Biodesign Challenge. That's an NGO in New York. And after that, we got so inspired and motivated to be more committed to next generation sustainable bioengineered processes and technologies and materials. So that's why we added a new pillar to the equation, and which is biology right now. So we say art meets technology, meets sustainability and biology. And our goal is to really harness the power of most abundant source we have, the nature. And that's why we're now investing in biodesign startups as well. This also will increase the circularity, and this will also create solution to waste. And the first step was actually making this collaboration with newcell as a solution to waste in the total system.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. You know what, I'm wondering, because hearing what you said and what Una and Paul had opened us up with, Una, I'm wondering if I can come back to you and if you could share even a little bit more, because you said something so great that we're still going to make, we still want out there that basic, beautiful, pair of Levi's jeans that is like our comfort. We've always wanted it, but there's always going to be, so much more hidden in it, the science, the technology. Are there any other emergent technologies or any more other things you think will be needed that will allow actually sustainable denim manufacturing to surge ahead, to leap ahead? And where do you think it will come from first?
I'm really excited because I feel like the denim industry is incredibly creative, and every person I encounter is really motivated to make change, and that's an incredibly exciting place to be. There's a lot of incredibly exciting disruptive technologies out there. Renewcell is a great example of one that solves both a waste issue by keeping garments out of landfill when they can no longer be worn. But it's also a great example of doing things in a better way. So it allows us to recycle and still keep the quality of our product, which I think is really important. We know that the most sustainable thing we can do is design something that stays around for a long time. So we're so excited to work with Renewcell and fibers like Renewcell that maintain quality when you're recycling something, because we don't want to promote recycling as a way to make disposable garments, right? That's not the best use of our resources. So the best way for us to use these great technologies is to use them in a way that allows us to draw down our impact in everything we create. So I'm really excited to see these technologies come along and see how people handle them. Also, I think that we're about to see great ideas and new ways of dyeing and new dye applications that save resources and water, and I'm incredibly excited about that. Also for me, something I would love to see more of is products that are created in a way that promote soil health versus soil degradation. We love cotton, we love natural renewable fibers, and I think we want to figure out how to use more cotton and hemp in ways that promote environmental benefits versus environmental negatives.
And if could I just dovetail on one of Una's comments, because I think it's an important point that we not embrace recycling technologies as a mechanism to enable the creation of more cheap short-term clothing and clothing use. Rather focus on on finding and promoting those technologies that enable the creation of durable long-term quality. We know that conventional cotton garnetting, the mechanical process, fundamentally reduces the staple length and therefore the eventual strength of the denim where you put it. So if you make a denim, maybe it's say 20% garneted recycled cotton, it's going to be a much weaker denim, and probably after about 3 or 5 home laundries, the jean's going to be about 20% lighter because that's where the dryer lint comes from. We need to understand the recycling imperative and the idea of circularity and a circular industrial ecology, not as an enabler of growth without impact, but due to its complexity, it is the thing that will naturally impose a certain set of constraints on the production of clothing such that it might be the enabler of the smaller, more responsible business. That if we don't think of it as this way of getting away with making too much because, it's not going into a landfill now because we're just squirting it out into a new garment. No. It's got the design precision and the decisions that have to go into making each garment so that they are circularly viable, so that they work within a system like Renewcell, which I think we'll talk about. The discipline that requires design discipline that has to go into the investing in the creation of value that is long-term, rather than this another opportunity to exploit natural resources on multiple generations. So I think it's an important distinction that we understand that opportunity of circularity not as this growth enabler, but possibly as the appropriate constraint.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Paul. So I'm excited to learn more about Renewcell myself. Jenny, can you tell us, everybody has been so excited and mentioning, but I'd love for you to really share with everyone here, the Renewcell technology, the patent, how it happens in your supply chain. I was reading, about the whole process. I'm even wondering, can you, use a Renewcell garment back into your process? So do you mind sharing a little bit on that with us? Thank you.
So as you said in the introduction, the Renewcell was founded in 2012. So, but it was not until last year that we made our first real commercial production. And these are the fibers that the Levi's corporation was made from. So those were the first fibers. So what we do, we call it the polymer recycling. So we use cellulose from old textiles. It can be garments, it can be industrial waste, whatever. So cotton and man-made cellulosic materials can be recycled in our process. So we have a plant here in Sweden, and it's a small plant, let's say. It has a capacity of 7,000 tons of material per year. Our product is called Circulose, and that is the recycled or recovered cellulose from the textiles that we use. So the process contains of the 3 parts, let's say. So the first part is that we mechanically work with the textiles. The second part is the chemical part, where we break down to polymers and also remove dyes, and maybe we have synthetic content in the mix. So we can remove also synthetic content, and then if necessary, we can also make the material a little bit lighter by a environmental friendly process. And then the last part of the production is more like a paper mill. We have the pulp, and we make it into sheets, and we remove the water, because we use water in the process, but the water is going back to the water system in our plant. So it's a combination of a mechanical and the chemical process together with the paper mill to make a simple explanation. And we use both industrial waste and post-consumer waste. The garments made for Levi's are made from post-consumer waste fibers. And we have suppliers all over the world at this point. Hopefully we can be able to source more locally eventually, but as this is a new business, we have to look a little bit everywhere. But hopefully we can establish ourselves in more markets and work with local raw material moving forward. So it's very exciting. So for this project with Levi's, we work together with Beyond Retro and Bank & Vogue, that company, taking jeans that they could not sell in their shops, that were not in good condition, and then instead we can recycle them. So we really see our production as the last resort. First, if garments can be reworn, they can be changed, they can be mended, they can have a long life as a garment, that's the best thing. But then when they are no longer suitable as shorts or whatever, we can take them when they are torn, broken, stained, and so on. But of course, we hope that it will take 15 plus years until we get the Levi's garments back in our recycling, but it's possible when that day comes to recycle them again.
Oh, that's great. It's fascinating. It's so true. It's maybe even more than 15 years. I still have a pair in my closet.
25, who knows?
I am.
Yes.
I know. Una, do you mind sharing with us, tell us a little bit about the collaboration with Orta and Renewcell? Like, what is it about Renewcell, that first interested you, and what influenced you then, in working with Orta on the project? Can you share a little bit on that with us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's been a real dream project for us, and we feel so lucky to have partnered with the people that we got to partner with on it. This is a kind of a realization of circular design that we've been working on since 2015, where we carefully calibrate every single trim and every stitch that goes into the garment so it conforms to a very strict recycling specification. And the idea behind that is to maximize materials for circularity so they can stay within the system for longer, and we're not constantly using natural resources, and it helps us to draw down the impact of our product, and it's incredibly important for us. So when Renewcell offered us their first fiber, we were so honored and so excited to work with it, because it's really like a proof of concept that this design for circularity, this design to keep materials in circulation is really viable. So we were thinking about how to make a jean, how to design the jean, and Orta instantly came to mind, because there was a fabric that had been in the Orta portfolio since 2015 that felt like the perfect vehicle for this fiber. We wanted to make sure that whatever we designed felt like a really quality product, that it looked beautiful, and that it really did justice to the incredible innovative work that the Renewcell team had worked so hard on to break through. So we wanted it to be handled by experts, and we wanted it to be handled in a way that we knew would result in a beautiful product. So Orta, the fabric that we chose was a fabric that Kathy Barton had actually shown me first in 2015, and I'd always loved the fabric. I thought it was a brilliant concept. You know, it was the typical Orta fabric. It had beautiful character and color, beautiful shade, but it had an innovative twist, right? It was one of the first fabrics to be authentic looking, but with man-made cellulosics that made it soft and gave it this really beautiful drape. And I had been admiring the work that Orta had been doing in the water-saving dye techniques. So it was really just an instant fit that I knew that Orta was the right partner to bring this to market with. It was important that we, you know, Jenny and the Renewcell team has done this incredible body of innovative work. And it's really important that we, as industry experts who know how to make these things, that we give it the care that it deserves so we can bring it to market in a way that's valuable for the consumer, and that, you know, can shift the perception that a recycled garment can be really high quality. It is designed for longevity. We want it to last for decades. We want it to be just like every other Levi's jean, but we're just being really mindful that at the end, and hopefully we're decades away from that, that Renewcell can take it back and it can be regenerated into something new.
That's great. Yeah, Paul, I was going to ask you, can you expand on that and how it all fits into your material strategy?
Yes, the material strategy piece, yes, but the idea of the collaboration, or knowing that these are the right collaborators, this is not the first denim company I've worked for, and at every denim company in my past, I can tell you a story around a relationship with Orta built on trust and predicated on shared values. For a previous company, we were launching a denim business, and I struck a deal also with Kathy Barton that that Orta would integrate 5% organic as long as I gave her a commitment to not look for other qualities for 3 years, so that they had a confirmed place to put organic for 3 years. And for that, we would not get a cost increase, but nor would I try to market it. It's just about establishing a relationship and establishing a known and consistent demand for an ethically sourced cotton, so that they could help stand up organic cotton farming in Turkey. And knowing that that kind of ethic exists at that company, knowing that there's a commitment to working through tough challenges in service of a shared value, in this case, environmental resource conservation, that you don't get that confidence from a brochure at PV or Kingpins. You don't get that kind of relationship just off of a press release. It takes time to understand that there's a soul to the company, and that soul is somewhat aligned with your own. In terms of material strategy, we know cotton is our fiber, and we know it has consumer resonance, it has performance value, and it defines the thing that we love, which is a great pair of vintage 501s, for example. We also know cotton has impact, and we know that we're taking this really precious resource that we have spent so much water and carbon to cultivate, and we are at ever faster rates just throwing that resource away. And you know, we know the water impact of a single Levi's conventional cotton garment over its life is 3,781 liters. 2,565 of those liters are just in the cultivation of cotton alone. And that won't work forever, right? There are too many people, you know, UN estimates around 768 million people suffering severe thirst from lack of access to potable water on a daily basis. Is it just, is it right? Is it to be spending this much water on a garment unless we're really caring for it and keeping it, or unless we're investing in ways to recover the value of the garment so that we do not always have to rely on virgin material for the creation of the product that we love. And that's where this project of recovering the material from the product we love and handing it over to specialists in making a new form of that material. The fabric that Una referenced that had been in the line since 2015 had a certain high percentage of man-made cellulosics, and it still looks and performs and feels like a beautiful classic cotton jean. So we were dealing with people who already knew how to manipulate the material in a way that would give us the same consumer experience. And so this is the right constellation of technologies, because we know within our fiber portfolio that we must draw down on the conventionals and really push on the R&D and the cultivation and commitment to progressive, unconventional solutions to fibers. And in this case, to be able to deliver this advanced technology in a form that is so consistent with the look and feel of the Levi's that you love, I think anyone who gets a chance to wear the product, first and foremost, is going to say, well, these jeans make me look great. It's almost secondary, all the amazing environmental value that has been delivered through this project. And none of it would be possible without these sort of relationships. And I think that the relationship piece as a component of our fiber portfolio is something that we often underestimate. We look at relative percentages of allocation to various fiber types, but we don't say, what's the relative allocation of our procurement to companies with shared values, companies where we trust the relationship, companies where we know and have affinity, right? And I think that's an important, this project represents an important example of that way of working.
That's great. And I can't wait for the day when the average consumer really understands that sort of value and that great pair of jeans that you're giving them that feels wonderful, but has so much other love in it, and they will, trust me, they will. Isabel, maybe you can share, because that was so great, how Paul and Una had talked about the relationship with newcell, the order experience, how the process worked. I'm sure this was a, groundbreaking collaboration. There were probably some challenges you had, and any process changes and things like that. Yeah.
Totally. So I've been working at Orta now for 2.5 years. I was at Levi's before, where and before that, I'd always been in touch with Kathy Barton. So I'd always been kind of in love with Orta through her as well. And when I started working at Orta, I think 6 months afterwards, or about a year afterwards, Una and I started talking about this project that she wanted us to collaborate with. And she liked this quality that Kathy had shown her. And so the easy part was that we had an aesthetic that we wanted to target, and the fiber processing wasn't too much of an issue because we do our own spinning in-house. After we saw the iteration, we just noticed that with any new fiber, there are some unknowns. The shrinkage was a bit more, but I think in the end we got to a aesthetic that was, I think, a bit better than the original even. I was just looking at it this morning, and I just think that it does look like 100% cotton, but as soon as you touch it, you can tell that it's totally different. And I think everything that Paul was saying about the circularity of this connection is totally, I think that part of it is the most beautiful part.
And Sadef, can you add to that and maybe, talk about, what interests you, not just in newcell, but in part of really your strategic, initiative with it and placing it into your whole materials approach?
I would love to add to that after really hearing what Paul and Una and Isabel said about shared values, and their comment about recycling shouldn't be a way to create cheap garments. I mean, we as Orta really believe in that, in long-lasting, good quality products. And that's why we created a notion called golden ratio, because nowadays everybody is really eager to increase the percentage of recycled content in the product. I mean, maybe just for the sake of using the percentage as a marketing tool. Maybe that's another aim. I really don't want to comment on that, but we definitely know that as soon as you increase the percentage mechanically recycled cotton especially, the quality of product really get affected. Yes, with the rising consumption around the world, the amount of textile waste increased rapidly, but there is also another effect which comes from the low quality garments as well. Since the low quality garments increased in the total system, after one season, they all really end up in the waste streams, and they piled up in the landfills or they burned. Like with I'm pretty sure most of you are aware with the numbers that Ellen MacArthur Foundation shared, but we are using 53 million tons of fiber annually, and 97% of which is out of virgin feedstock. And 12% of them got lost in the production without even going to the shops. And 75% of these garments end up at the end of their lives, they are either landfilled or incinerated. And this is a challenge really for us as a supplier to this textile world, and it motivates us as Orta to reimagine a denim towards a net positive future. And here, there is an amazing new innovative solution, and which is called Renewcell right now, because we use mechanically recycled cotton, we use recycled polyester, refibra, we use EcoMate T400, EcoMate Lycra. Yes, okay, especially in the cotton recycling. Paul mentioned it a little bit, but when you do it mechanically, there are limitations. You cannot recycle blends. You cannot recycle cotton elastane fabric if the elastane percentage is over 2%. Or if it has T400 in it, you cannot recycle as well. So this really limits us to consider second-hand garments as a source of raw material. And besides the fiber length decreases as well, which really creates the limitation in the percentage inside the fabric. So to consider the second-hand garments as a raw material, as a source of raw material, really Renewcell is a disruptive technology that you can use all the garments, take the cellulose out of it, and create a good quality yarn that we, or like fiber, that we as fabric producers can use them and create beautiful, good quality, long-lasting products for the total system. So being a part of a constant search for innovative solutions for a better future of denim is in our DNA, and we aim to be a part of the solution in fashion without waste. And that's how we are really, really excited working with Renewcell and with Levi's in that sense.
Okay, great. So Jenny, there's a lot of love going around, and I am so eager to hear a little bit more from you, if you don't mind, on Renewcell. You know, it is such an exciting example of, you know, I'm going to say circular and sustainable innovation process that sounded so simple, yet I understand now how complex it really is, you know, to bring to market and scale. And I know it's just the start. I know that you guys, you know, probably have so much more planned. Can you share some other ways you might be imagining, you know, that you can contribute to the circular economy, or ways you're thinking? You did share earlier on trying to scale and go on more local. Is there anything else that you hope that you'll do with Renewcell, or anything else coming out of your pipeline?
Yes, of course, apart from growing our own production, we hope that with corporations like this, with Levi's, we make the fashion industry interested in this type of initiatives, so that what we do can also lead to other innovators scaling up their production, because we will need a lot of companies like Renewcell to solve the problem in the textile and fashion industry. So we hope we can bring this topic to the table and make the industry interested and invest in innovations, because we will need a lot of new plants to handle all the waste that we have created so far, and to solve the problem, avoid materials going for landfill and incineration. We need to take care of the precious raw materials that we already have. So here we hope we can benefit, and then of course we want to develop more. We want to be able to recycle more types of qualities, more types of fiber blends, make other fibers like viscose filament and lyocell. And we hope also that we can change the way the market look at waste today, because textile waste, you have to pay to get rid of it, to get it incinerated, more or less. So we hope the market can start to see it as a resource, and that more companies engage in taking care of the textile waste that is today discharged. So we have to create another business model for discharged textiles and fashion. And hopefully we can make this happen by showing what we do, and to show that you can succeed and you can be successful in this area of the fashion industry.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And, you know, we all know that fashion has really been a leading voice of trends and change in the world. And, you know, anytime we look back on a period in history and time, you know, fashion is part of defining that moment. And everything that you all are doing today with bringing this circular processes and really rethinking more of a circular economy, it's really creating an eco-modern approach to fashion innovation. You know, it's science-based, it's respect to the planet, you have an ultimate purpose to keep growing it, you know, especially towards a world without waste. So I'd like to actually end this with asking each of you, if you don't mind, just to really share with us, you know, whether it's personal or it has to do with the work that you're doing with your company, what is your vision really for the future of denim? You know, it could be an eco-modern one, it could be a sustainable one, it could be one built on where you hope denim really goes in the future. And I'm wondering, you know, Paul, do you mind kicking us off?
We established that, you know, that people love their jeans, they develop long-term relationships with their jeans. So let's also build in a sense of accountability and awareness of impact, so that it's a more thorough relationship, like the kind that you have, you know, with your kids or your husband or wife or what. Like, it can't just be a love it and leave it kind of thing. So I would see an eco-modern future for denim being one where consumption it includes accountability as well as affinity.
Great. Una, do you want to build on that?
Sure. I think one of the most important ways to approach anything, and it's really important to the modern approach for me right now, is that one that addresses the true social and environmental impact of what we make. Denim and fashion has always embodied a youthful spirit and expressionism, and I think the best way to take that forward is to do it in a way that's respectful to the humans making it and to the resources that we're using to do so.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Jenny, do you want to share with us your vision?
Yes, great impact, great input from Paul and Una here. But yes, what I hope in the short term is to see great jeans made from zero new virgin materials. That would be fantastic, to have newcell in combination with mechanically recycled cotton, for example, and maybe with also the possibility to use for the dyeing, maybe zero water dyeing and this kind of thing. So have a denim that can last a lifetime, but with very, very little impact on the environment. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you. And Isabel, you want to share your vision?
Sure. Having been on the brand side and now the mill side, I feel like I envision a time when people are just more thoughtful in the way that they design things, and that to take into account like sustainability and aspects that are going to be kind of have like an effect down the stream, and not just because it's like in the moment they just need to add something in for a flash.
Okay, great. And Sadef, last but not least, what's your vision, your eco-modern future of denim?
Eco-modern future of denim. Well, loaded question. My vision for denim's future is definitely a net positive one, where we as an industry will continue to develop more innovative, disruptive, bioengineered alternatives, really to reduce our usage of natural resources and increase our usage of waste as a resource. And while helping people to realize that their favorite pair of jeans can have not just a second life, but an eternal life. And together we can use less to create more abundance and a longer, healthier life for us and for the planet, for the Mother Earth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Listen, I want to not just thank you guys, but I want to tell you all that I am so humbled and so inspired just listening to your personal stories and really just learning on the inside things I always knew about Levi's. And now in my heart, I truly believe in everything that you're going to be building for the future. And I want to thank you guys. Renewcell, keep it going. Love it. I can't wait to see more and more from you. And Orta, as always, thank you for wanting to innovate for a beautiful, more positive and sustainable future. So thank you, everybody.